I promise this one's going to be shorter than the review of all the good things. Let's get into the bad and the ugly aspects of Avatar: The Way of Water. I'm the multi-dimensional nerd, and welcome back. Let's get into it. So, number one thing that I have to say on the bad, I said this in my last episode as well, and that is that I have to wait 2 years for number 3 to come out. Okay, fanboy over. The next thing that I have to say is in regard to the visuals, and I touched on this at the end of my previous episode, and that is that sometimes the visuals look a little bit like video games, and that is because of the choice James Cameron made to render the film in 48 frames per second instead of 24 frames per second. I understand the idea behind it. It's supposed to, as I understand it, render the water better. However, I also think that it is difficult to get used to and can sometimes pull you out of the experience. After a certain point, when you're sitting and you're watching these things, similar to running actually, it's kind of funky. When you start to run, the first little while kind of sucks, and then your brain kind of shuts off and you're just going. It's the same thing when you watch a movie. When you first sit down to watch a movie, it takes a little while for your brain to shut off about all of the things that you have going on in the rest of your life. It takes a little while for your brain to shut off and just immerse yourself in the world, and for what we call your... It'll come to me in a minute. Give me a second. Suspension of disbelief. Thanks. It takes a little while for your suspension of disbelief to catch up to where your brain is at. And once you're fully immersed in the movie, your suspension of disbelief sort of takes over, right? So you can see people, 9-foot humans, or humanoid creatures flying on the backs of fantasy dragon-like characters. There's a nerdy part of my soul that just hurts the fact that I just had to bastardize that. Let me try that again. There's a part of your human brain that will not believe that there's an alien moon circling Jupiter that has 9-foot people called the Na'vi flying around on these magical banshee creatures called the Ikran. Okay, I feel better. However, your suspension of disbelief will eventually catch up to that. And whenever you immerse yourself in a film or in a fantasy especially, it takes a little while for that to happen. The 48 frames per second, your suspension of disbelief is the thing that allows you to say, yes, this is real. You know it's not, but you're willing to suspend the disbelief. You're willing to suspend your understanding of reality long enough to say, yes, the Na'vi are real. Yes, the Banshees are real. Yes, I can go swimming on this planet. Okay. The 48 frames per second thing can sometimes make the world feel fake or like a video game because it's too smooth and our eye doesn't like it. That is something that takes some getting used to. Luckily, this film is good enough to where it doesn't impact it horribly wrong or horribly. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say about the visual aspect of it. Obviously, all of the awards that this thing is getting is well-deserved. It's a marvel. It's gorgeous to look at. Go see it in Dolby or IMAX. I prefer Dolby, but IMAX is great too. And now I want to talk about something bad that happened with one of the characters. And this is not spoilery, I promise. One of the things that's bad with one of the characters is that Neytiri doesn't get a whole lot of screen time. We do see some magical conflicts between her and Jake, and that do help show the dynamics of marriage, and how to function in arguments and disagreements in a marriage, especially under the most intense circumstances, right? Your kids are literally their lives are being threatened. Your entire livelihood, all that you love, all you care about, your family, your tribe, everything is at risk. The tension and the conflict that builds inside the marriage is depicted beautifully, except for that seems to really be the only reason Neytiri is around. She also doesn't get hardly any screen time, and this is a 3 hour and 12-minute movie, and the fact that this character, who is a pivotal part of the last movie, and every time that she is on screen for this movie is wonderful. The fact that she doesn't get a whole lot of time on camera is tough. I'm one of those weird guys. I hope that there's an extended version that comes out eventually that has more scenes with Neytiri. Because I can only imagine what some of the conflict is between her and the Metcaina clan, the Reef people. And spoiler warning, if you want to skip, do it now, or stop the video. Okay. Neytiri doesn't actually integrate all that well into the Metcaina, but we don't get to see very much conflict develop out of that. Now, part of that is because that conflict would probably detract from the ultimate conflicts that play out over the course of the movie. Nevertheless, with her having such a huge role to play in the previous film, I'm surprised that we don't get more from her in this film. Now, in the third movie, I hope that we get a lot of time with both her and Renal. I hope that we get more time with Tonawati, Renal's husband, who I didn't feel like got very much screen time either, as amazing as he was as a character. However, that's one of the things that sort of struck me as bad. Moving on, the next thing that I think that falls into the bad category is that James Cameron's Avatar, when Avatar came out, got into a legal dispute with the creators of Nickelodeon's famed Avatar: The Last Airbender. Okay. Avatar: The Last Airbender is done. It has been done for a good long while, and they're starting to tell spin-off stories. The Legend of Korra is one of them. They've got new animated movies coming out. There's rumored of a live-action movie coming out, and we do not speak of the movie that will not be named. Okay? The nerd is fully aware, and we don't talk about it. Those of you that know, you know, and those of you that don't know don't need to worry about it. But with Avatar with James Cameron and Lightstorm Productions having put up the fit that they did with Avatar, the animated series, about them trying to name the cartoon just Avatar, and with Avatar: The Last Airbender's emphasis on earth, wind, fire, and water, it's really concerning to me to see Cameron do this whole thing where he goes, okay, this movie is Avatar. You can't use that name because we're using that name and we're going to sue you if you don't, or if you do. And so they had to change the name of Avatar to Avatar: The Last Airbender. And then now James Cameron is doing this whole The Way of Water. And in the third movie, we have confirmed that we're going to have a fire Na'vi people that are being introduced. If Cameron's not really careful, there's a huge potential knife fight legally that's going to come out between Avatar: The Last Airbender and the Avatar movies. And I don't want to see it. I really don't. I love both of these worlds, both of these fictional worlds immensely. But I do think it's pretty crappy that this is the way that this could potentially play out. That one party was threatened to be sued, and now the other party is almost directly infringing on the same sort of turf, even though they are completely different IPs with completely different stories. The potential for the legal knife fight here is astounding. Avatar: The Last Airbender group and Nickelodeon, whoever else owns that, would absolutely be within their rights to go after James Cameron. I just hope that James is very careful moving forward. Okay, moving on to the ugly. There is really only one ugly thing that I see about this movie, and that is the technology that has been developed to create it. There's a story that's told by Sidney Lumet in his book. And if you don't know who Sidney Lumet is, look him up. He's a world-renowned director. He got to ask one of the great Japanese directors. 1 second, I'm going to look him up. Searching. Go away. Akira Kurosawa. Now, Akira Kurosawa is huge for the old Japanese films that he made. Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, A Fistful of Dollars, Rashomon, that type of stuff. So Sidney Lumet asked Akira Kurosawa about a specific scene that film students have studied in every film school pretty much imaginable. Period piece, I forget which movie it's from, but it's really just a shot down a street in Japan of this samurai. And I think it's like leading up to a duel. And so Sidney Lumet got the chance to ask Kurosawa, why did you frame the shot the way that you did? People, like, there have been studies about in colleges about the emotion that it evokes and the reasoning why and how do they do this and what is the storytelling premise. And it turns out that Akira Kurosawa framed that shot the way he did because if he was 2 inches to the left, he would have seen the Sony manufacturing building, and if he's 2 inches to the right, he sees a tenement building. I tell this story because part of the artistry of filmmaking is creative problem solving. That's part of the artistry, is having these boundaries placed upon you, these limitations placed upon you, and still trying to figure out how to create something magnificent out of that. This is huge for the technology that has been made by Cameron, because Cameron made the technology to solve a problem for himself. Okay? He had a story he wanted to tell, and there was really no other way in telling it other than developing the technology necessary to tell this. It will take a while, but there will come a day where versions of this technology are made available to the mass public, and filmmakers all over the world are going to have access to this storytelling ability or to this tool for storytelling. That is not to say it is not to say that all of the problems of making a movie are just going to disappear. There will be different problems in every film. However, when you take away the realistic real-world restrictions and replace all of them with a dollar sign, because it's basically what you're doing, you're taking all of the restrictions that it takes to tell great films, and you're making consumers get used to the fact that you have something where the only thing that predicates how well you can tell a story is how many dollar bills you can throw at the screen. That's going to create a real problem. When you are given unlimited ability to play the game, your ability to play the game well diminishes. Another idea that sort of plays into this is the idea of some game theory that I learned by reading Jordan Peterson, I believe. Judge me for it. I know that some people are think that he's the Antichrist or whatever, but Jordan, I think, is a brilliant mind. And one of the things that he says, one of the things that we play, one of the ways that we prove that you need rules in a society in order for the society to function, and I would say the same is true for art, is by analyzing game theory. Let's play a game. You go first. What are the rules of the game? You don't know, I don't know, it doesn't matter. You move. Go ahead. You don't know what to do because there are no rules to the game. And so that game isn't really fun for very long. The same thing, this technology sort of opens Pandora's box in that way with storytelling. The only rule is how much money can you throw at this thing? How many artists can you get on board? You can go anywhere, do anything, say anything that you want to in film with this technology. You just got to be willing to throw enough dollars at it. I hope that this isn't the case. I hope that consumers are still willing to go and watch movies that have to face the real world problems of telling stories practically on low budgets. I hope that becomes the new art form. I hope that Hollywood gets away from this idea of how much money can we sling at something, looking at you, Marvel, and goes back to how can we get the biggest bang for our buck? How can we tell an absolutely incredible story creatively on the fewest dollars possible? And that's good business too, but it doesn't look like anybody's paying attention to it anymore. All people are chasing is the next big spectacle. And this is a spectacle, don't get me wrong. $2 billion at a box office is a spectacle. It's a gorgeous one too, and it's well deserved. I'm just very scared as to what is going to happen to the medium of cinematography because of the presence of this technology. That's all I got for this segment of the show. I hope I don't put too much of a downer on you. I still think that people are going to continue to tell great stories and make great films. I think that Avatar: The Way of Water is a fantastic film. You should definitely go see it while it's in theaters. It's coming out of theaters, I believe, in May or July. I know that's kind of a weird and wide gap. Let me confirm that real fast so I'm not giving you false information. So Avatar: The Way of Water, it will stay in theaters at least until February. With limited release times, possible even after that. So just make sure that you guys go and see this in theaters while you still can. It is worth it. It is worth your time. It is worth your money. And I know that the people that took the time to create this film will really appreciate it. Even with huge budgets like this, the amounts of people whose livelihoods depend on our ability to go back to the cinema, to have this experience, to share this experience, is huge. I'm one of them. So do us all a favor and get out for this film. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for nerding out with me. Hey guys, if you like this episode and you guys want more of this, make sure that you hit the follow button or the like and subscribe button, depending on whether you're on Rumble or YouTube. If you want exclusive content, if you want to see some short films that have been made by both us and other people that we know, and eventually help us get to the point where we can start making our own feature film content, make sure you go to forerunnerproductions.locals.com. And also, if you want Forerunner Productions merch, or if you want to help support and invest bigger funds, or if you want access to scripts and stuff like that, make sure you go over to forerunnerproductions.com. We've got all sorts of options for people to be able to invest and be a part of the storytelling process that we're going on. We know that you want better stories, and we're here to try and help you provide them, but we need your help. So make sure that you go over to either forerunnerproductions.locals.com or forerunnerproductions.com and check out all the content that we're making. And we'll see you in the next one.